They say a man's home is his castle. For 30 years, I believed mine was unshakable, built on love, loyalty, and trust. But one evening, when I opened my own front door, I realized the castle I had spent my life building was nothing but sand. I'm 55 years old. I worked hard every single day to provide for my family. I thought I had a partner by my side, a woman who shared my struggles and my victories. We raised children together, built traditions, and survived storms that would have broken other couples. I wore my loyalty like armor. I thought she did too. But betrayal doesn't knock before it enters. It slides in silently, like a thief in the night. And when it finally reveals itself, it steals not only your trust, but your very sense of who you are. Before I tell you the night I caught my wife with another man, I need you to understand the life that came before it. Because betrayal isn't just one moment, it's the breaking of decades, the shattering of a history you believed was solid. When I met her, I was 30. She was 25, bright, beautiful, full of life. I remember thinking, she makes me feel unstoppable. And for a long time, she did. She believed in me when I had nothing. I was just starting my career, struggling, but she said, "We'll build this together." And we did. The early years weren't easy. We lived in a tiny apartment with second-hand furniture. I worked long hours. She worked too, though she always dreamed of being a stay-at-home mom. When our first child came, she got that wish, and I was proud to give it to her. I carried the weight of bills and late nights, but I did it with a smile because I thought, this is love. This is what a man does. Years turned into decades. We bought a house, then a bigger one. I climbed the ladder in my job, provided vacations, college savings, security. Every time I came home tired, she was there with a smile. At least, that's what I believed. I never imagined she'd betray me. I thought loyalty was in her bones, as it was in mine. But maybe that's where I went wrong. Maybe I forgot that people change, and sometimes the change is not in your favor. Looking back, I can see the cracks that I ignored. It started subtle. She stopped laughing at my jokes. She began spending more time out, just with the girls, she said. She bought new clothes, changed her hairstyle, joined a gym. At first, I was proud. I thought, good for her. She deserves to feel confident. I never suspected what those changes really meant. Then came the phone, always in her hand, always face down on the table, late night messages, a quick smile at the screen, then turning it away when I asked what was so funny. I told myself it was nothing. After all, we'd been married 30 years. What could she possibly be hiding? But here's the truth. Love makes you blind. And loyalty? Loyalty makes you a fool for longer than you should be. The night it all came crashing down, I had left work early, a rare thing. I wanted to surprise her, maybe take her to dinner. The house was quiet when I walked in, too quiet. Her car was in the driveway. I called her name, no answer. That's when I heard it, a laugh, a man's laugh, coming from upstairs. I don't know how I climbed those stairs. My legs felt like stone, but my heart was racing like a drum in my chest. And when I opened that bedroom door, my entire world ended in a single breath. She was there, my wife of 3 decades, in our bed, with him. I froze. The man scrambled, grabbing his shirt, stumbling past me. She stood there, eyes wide, mouth open like a stranger. And I felt nothing, no rage, no words, just an emptiness so deep it swallowed everything inside me. That moment, that single moment, redefined my life. Because betrayal doesn't just destroy love, it destroys the very story you've been telling yourself for years. And as I stood in that doorway, I realized the woman I thought I knew never truly existed. If you've ever built a life with someone, you know it doesn't happen overnight. It's years of small sacrifices, daily routines, and shared dreams that turn two people into one. When I look back, the years before the betrayal almost feel like a different life, like a movie I once watched, where I was the main character, but now I barely recognize myself. Our mornings used to start the same way. She'd brew coffee before I left for work, and even if we were both tired, she'd kiss me on the cheek and say, "Have a good day." Those little rituals mattered. They gave me strength through the long hours at the office. When you're a man trying to climb the ladder, fighting to prove your worth, those small gestures at home, they're fuel, and she was always there to provide it. Or so I thought. We shared everything. We talked about the future constantly, what we'd do when the kids left home, where we'd travel, how we'd spend our retirement years. I remember once during a storm when the power went out, we sat by candlelight and made a list of dream destinations. She wanted Italy, I wanted Alaska. We laughed and promised we'd see both. At the time, it felt unshakable. It felt like a promise carved into stone. Raising kids was no small task. Anyone who's done it knows it tests a marriage more than anything. The late nights, the bills, the arguments about discipline, the exhaustion. But through it all, I thought we were a team. I believed we were on the same side of the battlefield, fighting for a common dream. When the kids got older and eventually moved out, I thought we had made it. The hard part was behind us, and we could finally enjoy each other again. That was the story I told myself. Looking back, maybe that was the first mistake, assuming love would run on autopilot. Because the truth is, marriages aren't destroyed overnight, they rot slowly in places you don't look. I remember one particular summer. We had been married almost 25 years. I planned a trip to the mountains, just the two of us. I thought it would be romantic, but I noticed something odd. She seemed distant. Even in that cabin, surrounded by silence and nature, she spent more time on her phone than talking to me. She brushed it off, said she was checking in on the kids or scrolling through recipes. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? After all, trust had always been our foundation. But now, with hindsight, I realize it wasn't just a phone. It was her smile that never reached her eyes. It was the way she'd pull away when I tried to hold her hand. It was the quiet sighs when I walked into the room, like my presence was a burden. I ignored those signs, convinced myself it was stress, menopause, maybe just aging, anything but betrayal. I'll never forget our 30th anniversary. I surprised her with a dinner reservation at the same restaurant where we'd had our first date. I thought it would be romantic, a way to reconnect. She smiled. She thanked me, but something was missing. She looked distracted, almost annoyed at times. When I reached for her hand across the table, she let me hold it, but it felt empty, like holding the hand of a stranger. The truth is, I was in love with a memory, with the woman she used to be, or maybe the woman I imagined she was. I was blind to the fact that the real person sitting across from me had already checked out of the marriage. She was building a new life in her head, one that no longer had me in it. And yet, I kept trying. That's what men of my generation do. We don't give up. We work harder, push through, sacrifice. I told myself, if I provide more, if I plan more, if I love her more, maybe she'll come back to me. But love doesn't work that way. It's not a math problem you can solve by adding more effort. If someone's heart has left, no amount of loyalty can drag it back. The irony is, I was happiest in those years because I didn't know the truth. I believed my wife loved me, and that belief was enough to keep me going. Ignorance really can be bliss until the truth comes crashing down. And when it did, I realized all those dinners, vacations, late nights at work, they weren't building the future I thought they were. They were just giving her a comfortable life while she prepared to betray me. I wish I could go back and tell my younger self, don't ignore the signs. Don't mistake silence for peace. Don't assume loyalty just because you gave it freely. But I can't. All I can do is tell my story now to men like you so you don't waste decades believing in something that isn't real. Because the life I thought I had, the marriage I thought I built, it was already crumbling long before I opened that bedroom door. I just didn't want to see it. If betrayal is a storm, then the warning signs are always there. The clouds gathering, the wind shifting, long before the lightning finally strikes. The problem is, when you're in love, you convince yourself the sky is still clear, even as the first drops of rain fall on your face. I started noticing changes in her routines. Small things at first. She used to love watching TV with me after dinner, old westerns, crime dramas, the kind of shows men of our generation grew up on. But suddenly, she was too tired. She'd head upstairs early, leaving me alone on the couch. I told myself it was nothing. People get tired. But it wasn't just one night, it became every night. Then came the gym. She had never been the type to care much about working out. For 30 years, she said, I don't need a treadmill. I get enough exercise chasing after you and the kids. But one day, she signed up for a membership at a fancy gym across town. At first, I was supportive. Good for you, I said. It'll be great for your health. She bought new workout clothes, started spending hours there, but something didn't add up. She never came back sweaty. Her hair was perfect, her makeup still fresh. Who goes to the gym and comes back looking like they just got ready to go out? Still, I pushed the doubts away. That's what trust does. It blinds you. And if I'm being honest, it wasn't just trust, it was fear. Fear of asking the questions I didn't want answers to. She changed how she dressed. Suddenly, new outfits, new lingerie, things she hadn't worn in years. Not for me, no, for someone else. When I tried to compliment her, she brushed it off, almost annoyed, like my attention was an inconvenience. The phone became the biggest red flag, always in her hand, never left unattended. She used to leave it on the counter, unlocked, buzzing with texts from the kids or her sister. Now it was glued to her, face down, with a new password I didn't know. Late night messages, little smirks, a glow on her face that had nothing to do with me. I'd ask, "Who's texting you so late?" She'd reply, "Just a friend, you don't know them." And that was it. End of conversation. The woman who once shared everything with me now shared nothing. Intimacy disappeared, not just physical, but emotional. She stopped asking about my day, stopped caring if I was stressed, if I was tired, if I was happy. She existed beside me, but not with me. The laughter, the little touches, the warmth, it was all gone, replaced by cold politeness, as if we were roommates paying the same mortgage. And yet, I stayed blind. Why? Because admitting the truth would mean admitting that 30 years of my life were built on sand. So I told myself, lies. She's just getting older. It's just stress. We'll reconnect once things calm down. Lies are comforting until reality rips them away. The distance between us grew wider. Nights turned into weeks, weeks into months. We still shared a bed, but it felt like there was an ocean between us. I reached out, tried to bridge the gap, planned dinners, suggested trips. She always had excuses. I'm too tired. I've got plans with friends. Or worse, no excuse at all, just silence. I remember one night I woke up at 2 a.m. She wasn't beside me. I walked downstairs and found her on the couch, phone in hand, smiling at the screen. When she saw me, she jumped, shoved the phone down, and said she couldn't sleep. My gut twisted, but I forced a smile and went back upstairs. That's how deep denial runs. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want the truth. I just wanted to sleep next to my wife and pretend everything was fine. Friends noticed too. A buddy of mine asked me once, "Hey, is everything okay with you two?" She seems different. I laughed it off, said she was just busy, that we were fine. But deep down, I knew he was right. People on the outside could see what I refused to admit. And then came the lies, little ones. She'd say she was going shopping, but come back hours later with nothing in her hands. She'd claim she was at the gym, but couldn't tell me what exercises she did. She said she was meeting friends, but none of them ever mentioned seeing her. The stories didn't line up, but I didn't press, because pressing meant opening a door I wasn't ready to walk through. The truth is, I wanted to believe in her more than I wanted to protect myself. That's the curse of loyalty. You defend someone else even as they destroy you. The warning signs weren't whispers, they were screams, but I muted them one by one until the night I couldn't mute them anymore. Looking back now, I can't believe how obvious it was. The gym that wasn't really the gym, the phone that never left her hand, the sudden coldness, the late nights, the lies. Every piece of the puzzle was right in front of me, but I refused to put it together, because if I did, I'd have to admit the picture it created was one I didn't want to see. But denial only delays the inevitable. And the inevitable came one quiet evening when I opened the door early, expecting to surprise her, only to find her already with someone else. That moment, that betrayal, wasn't sudden. It was the final strike of lightning after years of thunder rolling in the distance. I just refused to hear it, and when the storm finally hit, it tore my life apart. There are moments in life that carve themselves into your memory so deeply you can recall every detail years later: the smell in the air, the sound in the room, the weight in your chest. The night I discovered her betrayal is one of those moments. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special, nothing unusual. I left work a little early, thinking I'd surprise her. Maybe take her out for dinner. Maybe try, one more time, to bridge the growing distance. On the drive home, I even felt hopeful. Foolish, but hopeful. I imagined walking through the door, her smiling, maybe the two of us laughing like we used to. When I pulled into the driveway, her car was there. The lights upstairs were on. For a brief second, everything felt normal. But as soon as I stepped inside, I noticed it. Shoes by the door. Not mine. A man's shoes. Large, polished, not something you'd mistake for our kids' old sneakers. My stomach dropped. My first thought wasn't even suspicion, it was denial. Maybe a plumber, maybe a friend, maybe, but deep down, I knew. I climbed the stairs slowly, every step heavier than the last. Half of me wanted to turn around, to leave, to preserve the illusion a little longer, but something stronger pulled me forward, the need to know, even if it destroyed me. The bedroom door was half open, and then I heard it, her laugh, a soft, intimate laugh I hadn't heard in months. I pushed the door, and the world I knew ended. She was there, in our bed, with him, the bed we bought together, the sheets we picked out, the room where we had shared decades of our lives, and now it belonged to someone else. Time slowed. My body froze, but my mind screamed. I remember my hands shaking, my throat dry, my vision narrowing until all I could see was them. She gasped, pulled the sheets over herself, eyes wide with shock, not guilt, not remorse, just the panic of being caught. John, what are you doing home? She stammered, as if I was the intruder, as if I had no right to be there. The man, young, strong, confident, didn't even flinch. He just looked at me with cold, detached eyes, like I was nothing, like my entire life meant nothing. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to shatter everything in that room, but all I could manage was a whisper. How long? She looked away, tears forming, but silence was louder than any confession. Finally, she muttered, a while, a while. Two words that cut deeper than any blade, because in those words was the truth. It wasn't a mistake, it wasn't a one time weakness. It was planned, nurtured, hidden, a life she chose without me. I asked again, louder this time, how long? She broke. Almost a year. A year. 12 months of lies. 12 months of gym nights and friends and late texts. A year of me sleeping beside her while she gave her heart and body to someone else. I stared at her, at the woman I had trusted with my soul, and realized I didn't know her at all. The wife I thought I had, the life I thought we shared. It was all a story I told myself. The man stood up, calm as ever, and began dressing. No apology, no shame. He didn't see me as a rival, he saw me as irrelevant. That was almost worse than the betrayal itself. When he left, the silence in the room was unbearable. She tried to speak. It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't mean to hurt you, I laughed. An empty, bitter laugh. Didn't mean to hurt me. You burned down 30 years of marriage. You didn't just hurt me, you destroyed me. Her tears flowed, but they didn't move me. They weren't for me. They were for herself, for the mess she had to face now that the truth was exposed. I walked out of the room, out of the house, out of the life I thought I had. Every step felt like a funeral march, not for her, not for us, but for the man I used to be, the man who believed in loyalty, in vows, in forever, because that man died in that bedroom, and the one who walked away was someone else entirely, someone who would never look at love the same way again.